if they're not going to get a 1 seed, they probably won't get a 2 seed or a 3 seed. But if you are in the same region as Kentucky and they're sitting on a 4 or 5 seed, how happy are you if you're Villanova or Xavier or Kansas? I don't think anyone wants to see these guys in the NCAA tournament.
Good game Monday night with Miami beating Virginia at home. In terms of the way that stacks up in the ACC, how big of a win was that for the Hurricanes?
Well, it's a really big win because up until tonight, I had Virginia as a 1 seed, and right now this knocks them down to a 2 seed. And frankly, Miami is in the discussion to be a 1 seed. If you're looking at the ACC, it's a really tight conference up at the top, and you tend to think the team that wins the ACC will probably get a 1 seed, although it may not work out that way this year. But look, you got North Carolina, Miami, Virginia, and I guess Duke still is kind of in the mix. So ACC, the top of that conference, I think you could make an argument is better than the Big 12. It doesn't have the same depth as the Big 12. But to me, look, all those teams that I just mentioned, all 4 of those teams could be 1 seeds. Duke's probably a bit of a stretch, but it could happen if they win out and then win their conference tournament.
Reed Forgrave, Fox Sports, talking some college basketball. In terms of where you talk about the Big 12 best conference, what other conference is right there or close to it that has been very interesting this year for you?
Well, I think the ACC is definitely one of them. But if I want to talk about an interesting conference, let's look at the Big Ten. There's so many surprising storylines in the Big Ten this year. Iowa, a team that I don't think anyone would have called them a top 10 team going into the season. They were ranked something like 41st or 42nd going into the season. This is a team with it's just this weird roster where you have all upperclassmen starters and then all freshman sophomore bench. And the way, I know they've been flagging a little bit lately, but that is really one of the most impressive stories in college basketball. Maryland might be the most talented team in the country, yet they just lost to Minnesota, a team that hadn't won in 2 months. And, of course, Wisconsin, what they've done, really struggling at the beginning of the season. And then, obviously, Bo Ryan with a surprise retirement. And now Greg Gard has them running. I'm doing my bracket right now for FoxSports.com, and I have, I wouldn't say comfortably in the field, but I definitely have Wisconsin in the field. And, of course, Michigan State. Like, if you're going to pick a favorite to win it all, you wouldn't be wrong to say Michigan State because you got a star senior in Denzel Valentine, and you got a coach who's been there, and you've got a lot of solid pieces around him.
If Ben Simmons and the LSU Tigers don't make the NCAA tournament, does that hurt the SEC?
It's not good for the SEC. Look, the SEC, I think, is slowly becoming more of a basketball conference, but it's going to take a while. They're putting money into some big-name coaches in that conference, so it's more than just Kentucky. But, yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't help when, going into the season, there were essentially 2 big-time storylines in the SEC, and that was, of course, Kentucky, and then LSU, where you have a guy who's maybe even a once-in-a-generation basketball player. The fact that they, right now look like they're not going to make the NCAA tournament, and they might not be able to make it unless they, win the SEC tournament and get that automatic bid. But they're one of the most disappointing stories in all of college basketball.
Yeah.
We've seen